The year was 1983. Ronald Reagan was president. The Cold War loomed in the headlines and classrooms. MTV was revolutionizing music and the youth culture. And in Texas, the justice system was growing harsher, faster, and more final. The death penalty had returned, and the state was leading the nation in carrying it out. America was a country in transition, economically, politically, and spiritually. It was a time of revival and reckoning, and within that turbulent backdrop, a savage and deeply personal crime occurred in a Houston apartment, one that would eventually shake the public, the courts, and the national conscience. The case that followed was unlike anything Texas or the country had ever seen. It wasn't just about what happened. It was about who was involved and what it meant for justice, punishment, and the possibility of redemption. This is a story that begins in darkness, but it doesn't end there.
I'm Darlene.
And I'm Melody.
This is Hard Times and True Crimes. So we get a lot of really great reviews, but we got a review the other day from the Kentucky Wildflower, and she said that our podcast is her newest obsession. So thank you. She said, such a great podcast. I love the down-home feeling when listening to them tell the stories. Glad a friend showed me this clean but still great podcast. We are very glad that your friend showed you our podcast as well.
And we hope you'll share it with other friends.
Yes. So share the podcast, guys. So we had a great week. We had lots of new listeners from our past couple of episodes, which we're very excited about.
We did have a good week. We had Darlene's last episode about Asbury Respis, North Carolina's first serial killer. I believe that was episode 105.
I think so, yes.
Okay, so we're not going to say it went viral because it didn't go viral, but for us, it went viral.
Yes.
Meaning we had a really big jump in numbers, which was so exciting. So if you heard about us and you're a new listener and that was your first episode, we would love to hear some feedback of where you heard from us. Did you see us on Facebook, or where'd you hear about us?
Yes. And any of you were just curious and how people are finding us.
Yeah.
So we want to draw all the people.
The episode I'm going to share with you actually comes from our friend and listener, Katie Gora.
Oh, goodness. Thank you, Katie.
Yes. She sent this to us a while back, and I finally was able to put it together. So thank you for that. And you'll have to bear with me. There is a lot of alliteration in this episode. There are a lot of names that start with K, Carrie and Karla and all the Ks. There are a lot of names that start with D. It can get confusing.
Okay.
Danny and Dean and Doug and
all right.
So bear with me, and I will try to remember to just kind of recap who is who as I go.
Okay.
And this episode takes place in Houston, Texas in the early 1980s.
Okay, so I was just in Houston.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, I was just in Houston in May.
I forgot about that. And I was supposed to go with you, but then we couldn't make that happen.
Yes.
On the morning of June 13th, 1983, Gregory Traver, a friend and co-worker of Jerry Lynn Dean, waited for Jerry to pick him up for work, as he did every morning. Jerry usually arrived at 6:40 a.m. When he did not show up by 6:50 a.m., Traver walked the short distance to Jerry's apartment to meet him to find out what was up.
Yeah.
Traver knocked on the door, although he did notice it was ajar, and when he got no answer, he went ahead and went in. Once inside, Greg Traver noticed that the motorcycle Jerry was building was missing from the living room. The television had been moved to the floor, and the radio was blaring. Greg continued through the apartment, and then he found Jerry. Jerry was lying on a mattress on the floor. At first glance, Greg thought he had been in a fight. However, upon closer examination, he saw blood on his head, holes in his chest,
Oh my gosh.
and thought he looked like he had been butchered.
Oh my gosh.
And lying next to Jerry was the bloody body of a woman with a pickaxe protruding out of her chest.
Oh my gosh.
The woman was later identified as Deborah Thornton. Greg immediately ran out of the apartment and called police. Later, a pathologist with the Harris County Medical Examiner's Office estimated the time of death between 4 and 6:30 a.m. When police arrived, they found the bodies of Jerry Lindeen and Deborah Thornton. There were several boxes of motorcycle parts stacked in the room, along with piles of dirty clothes and garden tools. They discovered both bodies just as Gregory Traver had described the scene, stabbed repeatedly with what appeared to be a pickaxe, which was still in the woman's body. Property missing from the apartment included the dead man's motorcycle. Jerry Dean's and Deborah's wallets were gone, but there was no evidence of a forced entry. Officers did note that Jerry's 1974 blue El Camino was missing. It would be 5 weeks before police received a solid lead in the killings. A man named Doug Garrett called his longtime friend, homicide detective J.C. Mosier of the Houston Police Department. Mosier met with Doug and his girlfriend, Carrie Burrell, the next day. They told the detective that Doug's brother, Danny Garrett, and Carrie's sister, Karla Faye Tucker, had committed the murders.
Oh my gosh.
And the couple's friend, James Lee Brandt, had also been present during the killings.
So the brother and the sister of the victims and...
Not the victims. The brother and sister of the killers.
Oh.
Jerry Dean and Deborah. So we got Doug and Dean and Danny and Deborah.
Okay, so I want to understand. Doug is the one that found them.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Greg found them.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, who the heck is Doug? I'm already lost. We're like 2 minutes in.
Okay, so a man named Doug Garrett is the one who called police to report that he knew who had done it.
And it was his.
He said that his brother and his girlfriend's sister had committed the murders. To understand what led to the brutal murders, we have to take a look at the characters involved, their lives and backgrounds, and their activities leading up to the night of the grisly attack. Murder victim Jerry Lindeen was born in 1956. He was one of 6 siblings and a former member of the Coast Guard. Employed by Cube Cable Company in Houston, in his personal life, he was a Harley-riding biker. He wasn't really a big dude. He was only 5'7" and around 150 pounds, but he had that biker edge about him. He was currently estranged from his wife, Shawn, and on this particular night was sharing his bed with a married woman whom he had just recently met.
Okay.
That woman was Deborah Thornton. She was married to Richard and worked as a bookkeeper. The couple was having some trouble, and on Sunday evening, June 12th, they had a pretty intense quarrel that ended in Deborah leaving angry. Deborah then went to a pool party where she met Jerry, and he began flirting with Deborah, and after that fight with her husband, that was a confidence boost, and I'm sure she flirted back. Jerry was the quintessential bad boy with his motorcycle, mustache, and long hair. I don't know what he looked like really, but that description gave me Sam Elliott vibes from back in the day.
Yes.
That's who I'm picturing. Deborah took Jerry up on his offer to go back to his place and left with Jerry for a one-night stand pretty much. The 2 people who had been named as the killers, Danny Garrett and Karla Faye Tucker, were colorful characters who had bad blood with Jerry Dean for some time. These 2 did not even know Deborah Thornton. She was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time and lost her life because of it.
Wow. I would have figured like the husband maybe had them do it. So no, that's not the case.
Wasn't the husband. So this one's not really a mystery as much as it is just
what happened,
a crazy story.
Okay.
Suspect Karla Faye Tucker was born November 18th, 1959, to Carolyn and Larry Tucker in Houston, Texas. Karla was the baby of the family and had 2 older sisters, Kathy and Carrie. So we've got Kathy, Carrie, and Karla.
Okay.
In the early years, she had what she considered to be a normal childhood, but her parents had a rocky marriage, and of course that sifted down into their parenting. At age 8, Karla was smoking cigarettes with her older sisters, and that eventually led to her smoking pot, and then eventually harder drugs by the age of 10.
Wow.
It was also around this time, as her parents were going through the divorce, that Karla learned she was the illegitimate child from an affair that her mother had.
Mm-hmm.
This dark-haired, beautiful girl never had understood why she looked so different from her blonde, fair-skinned sisters, but now it suddenly all made sense. Naturally, Karla was closer to her mother, and she lived with her mother after their divorce was final. Unfortunately, her mother had developed a pretty severe drug problem, and Karla, of course, was affected by that.
Sure.
And then Karla followed in her mother's footsteps, becoming addicted to hard drugs like heroin by the time she was 12.
Oh, my grace. Oh, my gosh. Heroin?
Heroin. She was even using it intravenously.
Wow.
I always find it so sad when kids are exposed to like hard lifestyles, because it's like they never have a chance.
Right.
Really.
It's all they know.
It's all they know.
It's what they're comfortable with.
Exactly. By the time she was 13, she was a school dropout after failing the 7th grade.
Mm.
And then things went downhill even further when her mother began taking Karla along on her drug-fueled romps. Karla later said in an interview that her mama prostituted herself for drugs and then showed Karla how to do the same.
Oh, that's so sad.
How can a mother do that? I don't know. But that's what happened. And then the two actually became groupies for rock bands. They went on the road with groups such as the Allman Brothers, the Marshall Tucker Band, and the Eagles.
Oh, my God.
And they were groupies, basically, following them around. And so they were living this full-on party lifestyle that eventually does lead to damage of some sort, right?
Sure.
I don't know if the drugs made her violent or if it was just the lifestyle that she was steeped in, but Karla fought quite a bit, and she seemed to enjoy it. Before she dropped out of school, she had beat up a classmate, blackening both of her eyes. At 15, she got into a fist fight with a man and a woman.
Gosh.
She said she had been at least in 3 fights by then in which people were seriously hurt.
Mm.
But when she was 16, she married a man named Stephen Griffith, and the two managed to stay together for about 5 years, which is surprising given the many personal problems that Karla was dealing with and her young age. She told Stephen once that one day she would be famous. I'm sure she had no idea how she would get that way and just how much she would regret it.
Right.
By the age of 21, though, the marriage was over, and Karla immersed herself in her friend group, the Bikers, and this was where she met 35-year-old Danny Garrett, her next relationship. Danny Garrett was twice divorced, a Vietnam vet with PTSD, drug charges, and violent behavior when he experienced flashbacks. Now he was bartending at a swingers club. The relationship between Danny and Karla was trouble waiting to happen, with Danny's underlying anger issues and Karla's penchant for violence. There's no doubt that the two fed off of each other.
Sure.
So Karla had met Jerry when he began dating her best friend and roommate, Sean. And her dislike of Jerry began when he parked his motorcycle inside her apartment that she shared with Sean at the time, in their living room, with oil dripping onto the rug. Not only that, but some oil dropped onto a photo of Karla with her mother, and it ruined it. And she was furious. When he refused to move the bike outside, Karla punched him in the face.
Oh, my gosh.
Sean and Jerry would end up getting married. And the day after the wedding, Karla and her sister Carrie moved in with Danny. Karla's boyfriend.
Okay.
And then, just to make it a little bit more complicated, Carrie's ex-husband, Ronnie Burrell, also moved into the home with them not long after. Yeah.
Okay.
I know that's weird. So I'm going to give you the
Yes.
recap. Sean and Jerry Dean got married.
Okay.
So you have Sean and Jerry. Karla and her boyfriend, Danny, they live in this house with Carrie, her sister, and Carrie's ex-husband, Ronnie.
Okay. Are they all in one house, or are they like
No,
living
Sean
close to each other?
Sean and Jerry live in their own apartment close by.
Okay. Gotcha.
There was one incident in which Sean went over to Karla's to pick up some of her clothes. And when Karla found out that Jerry was outside waiting in the car, she went outside and punched him then, too.
Crazy.
I don't know if it was this instance or another one, but one of those times that she punched him so hard that it broke his glasses into his face, and he had to go to the hospital to have glass removed from his eye.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. I mean, she detested this guy.
Sounds like it.
So when Sean and Jerry started having marital trouble, and this is her best friend, that only added fuel to the fire for Karla. Jerry and Sean's relationship was filled with domestic violence, as is common with that
Right.
lifestyle. And so, of course, Jerry punched Sean in the nose. And where is the first place she went?
To her best friend.
To her best friend's house. So she goes to stay with Karla at that point. And Karla's hatred started spilling over in her rantings about him. And so, of course, Karla would rant to her boyfriend, Danny. And so none of them like Jerry at all. So eventually, Karla and her boyfriend, Danny, start talking about stealing Jerry's motorcycle for vengeance. They would bring it up a lot in front of their friends. And one time, somebody did overhear Danny say that if Jerry were home when they broke in, they may just have to kill him.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Sean became a little uncomfortable with that line of talk. I mean, this is her estranged husband.
Yeah.
But still, I mean.
Right.
Yeah.
She might be mad, but she don't necessarily want him dead.
Right. Now, she still had keys to her apartment that she shared with her husband, and she had keys to his El Camino. But she decided she wasn't going to be a part of the theft. However, she had taken Jerry's bank card when she left, and she and Karla and Carrie all took money out of his account. So the weekend before the murders, Karla and Danny hosted a birthday party at their house. Friends were over. They were basically doing drugs the whole time. No surprise there.
Right.
They had been drinking heavily and taking drugs for just about 3 straight days.
Okay.
By the weekend of the party, not only was she taking speed too, but she had spent most of the month of June injecting speed. Karla was wired. This was her lifestyle because she had been using since she was 8.
Right.
But a 3-day binge, she's
She's out of her mind.
out of her mind. They had been hanging out with a few other friends doing more drugs until Carrie and her ex, Ronnie, they decided to take off. And that left Karla, her boyfriend Danny, and another guy, the Jimmy Lee Brandt, at the house. And with the 3 of them out of their minds, it didn't take long for that ranting to turn to Jerry Dean again. Specifically, Karla's utter hatred of him. This talk between the 3 friends escalated the longer they talked. Once again, Karla stated that she wanted to kill Jerry and take his motorcycle. And on this night, unfortunately, their ranting turned into action.
Oh my gosh.
Jimmy began pacing back and forth, and he stated that if he didn't do something soon, he was going to go crazy. And Danny replied, "I know what we can do." He began sketching out the layout of Jerry's apartment, and the 3 decided to go over and steal back some money that they thought he owed them, and take his beloved Harley, and maybe rough him up a bit. Before they headed out, Danny grabbed a shotgun, and he later claimed it was not his intent to kill Jerry, that was all just talk, but he just grabbed that gun to intimidate him if he didn't cooperate. The 3 got into Danny's Ranchero, and they headed over to Jerry's sometime between 2 and 4 a.m. on that fateful summer night.
You gotta really hate somebody over some oil on your carpet.
Yeah, I mean, I guess their personalities must have just really clashed.
I mean, they must have. Good gracious.
Once at the apartment, Jimmy decided to stay in the car. Karla and Danny entered the apartment. They didn't have to break in because Karla used a key that she had stolen from Sean. They rifled around the bike for a bit, looking for what parts they wanted to take. And Karla did notice some of Jerry's tools scattered about the apartment, and specifically a mattock, or like a pickaxe, that was leaning against the wall. I just want to say what happens next comes with a very graphic warning. It's brutal. So just be aware if you're sensitive. Jerry had awoken when he heard a noise in the apartment, but he was a little disheveled because he was asleep. And so he called out, "What's going on?" And so Karla followed the voice and found Jerry in the guest room. She jumped on him as he was laying on the mattress, and she told him not to move or he was dead. Of course, Jerry immediately began to fight back.
Sure.
And as soon as he did, Danny came in. He shoved Karla out of the way, and he began beating Jerry with a hammer that he had picked up in his tools, beating him in the head. He stopped the beating when Jerry stopped resisting, and his breathing turned to gurgling. But Jerry wasn't dead yet. Danny left the room and went back to the living room to steal some more stuff, and leaving Karla to continue the violence. And she was just getting started.
Wow.
She grabbed that 4-foot-long pickaxe that had been leaning against his wall, and she commenced to striking Jerry with it, hitting him in the back several times. At some point during this, Jimmy, who had been waiting in the car, he came inside the apartment to see what was going on.
Right.
Intending to help him grab some stuff and get out.
Yeah.
He saw Danny boxing up the parts. That's what he expected to see. But imagine what went through his mind when he spotted Karla smiling as she beat Jerry with that pickaxe. And blood was everywhere. At that, Jimmy took off and ran. I guess that was more than he bargained for.
Yeah.
And Jerry was still alive, making this awful gurgling sound. Later, Karla would testify that she was only trying to get that gurgling to stop, that the sound was just unbearable. Danny then realized Karla was having a hard time finishing the job. So he pulled her away, flipped Jerry on his back, and dealt the final blow to his chest with the pickaxe.
Oh my gosh.
Jerry was no longer gurgling. He was quiet. He was dead. All this time, Deborah Thornton cowered under the sheets and blankets. She hadn't been noticed yet. I am sure that she was praying they wouldn't see her. She had kind of slid down between the mattress and the wall and stayed under the covers just hoping.
Oh my goodness.
She could hear everything going on, and I bet those moments were terrifying. Suddenly, Karla noticed movement beneath the bed sheets, and she realized there was a woman there. And she knew that attack on Jerry had been witnessed, and there was no way Karla was going to allow a witness to leave that room alive.
Oh my gracious.
Karla was in that killing frenzy, and she was wound up, and she took that pickaxe and brought it down hard on Deborah Thornton's shoulder. Deborah began to fight for her life. At one point, she grabbed the pickaxe and was about to overcome Karla. So Danny again comes back into the room, and he wrangled the weapon away from both women, and then he began beating Deborah with the pickaxe.
Oh my goodness.
At that point, Deborah knew she wouldn't survive, and she cried out, "Oh God, it hurts. If you're going to kill me, do it now." And Danny kicked her hard in the chin. And as she fell backward, he pulled the pickaxe from her shoulder and slammed it into her chest, leaving it buried several inches in her heart. And then Karla and Danny picked up the bike parts, loaded the bike frame onto the back of Jerry's car, used his keys, which Karla had stolen, and then drove his car with the bike over to Danny's brother, Doug's house.
Okay. So those idiots still stole the bike.
They did.
Okay.
Jimmy Lee Brandt drove Danny and followed her over. Once Karla arrived there at Doug's house, she told him what they had done at Jerry's. She told him to help her unload the bike into his garage. Danny, Jimmy Leibrandt, and Ronnie Burrell then arrived and moved the remaining bike parts into the garage. You may think that once Karla and Danny came down off their high, maybe they would feel some remorse.
Sure.
But you would be very wrong. Karla replayed the whole grisly event to her sister Carrie with glee in her voice and a smile on her face. She gave Deborah's stolen wallet to Carrie as a birthday present.
Oh my gosh, what an evil person.
Evil. Carrie was disgusted by this behavior and she threw the wallet away. The next morning, when officers were at Jerry's apartment, they knew right away that El Camino was gone, and they could tell that the motorcycle was missing because his friend knew that it was supposed to be in the living room. But they were puzzled by the no force entry that they could find. And they could tell the weapons appeared to have belonged to Jerry.
Yeah.
So they kind of didn't have a lot of clues to go on. They didn't have, at that point, anybody with a motive or means or opportunity.
Right.
And so that's why the case just kind of lagged for over a month without really any development. But when Karla and Danny heard about the murders on the news, they were laughing, jeering about being the pickaxe murderers. In some twisted effort to brag about her part in it, Karla made the statement that she received sexual satisfaction with every blow that she dealt to Jerry Dean with that pickaxe.
Oh my gosh.
It was sick.
Did she tell her friend, the wife, his wife?
You know what? I don't know. I don't know when Sean found out. I would think she probably did.
Yeah.
I would think she did because Sean was in their circle and she was telling all of their friends within that circle. But I didn't read that, so I'm not positive.
And if she was the way she was, you never know. Like, Sean could have been kind of afraid of her, too.
Yes.
You know?
Probably.
Like, I'm sure she was a domineering person.
Yeah. And just like that sick bragging that she did, that was her way of making herself sound tougher to her peers. And I'm sure they all got the message, okay, she's crazy. Like, don't make her mad. Don't cross her.
Yeah.
In fact, Carrie and Doug, Karla's sister, Danny's brother, they had now become a couple. And they were very uncomfortable with what they knew about the murders. Carrie saw that Karla was off the rails, and it occurred to her that her own life might be in jeopardy. And that was her sister.
Right. Because those are the type of people that'll be like, oh, well, we better get rid of them so that they don't tell on us.
And that's exactly what had happened. Carrie had heard Danny say, well, they might have to kill Jimmy to keep him from talking. So she kind of knew, well, we know all these details, so we really could be in danger too. They were starting to realize it's kind of off the rails.
These people are off the rail, yeah.
So she decided she was moving out. And that's when she went on to move in with Doug.
Okay.
They were dating, but then she moved out of Karla's house and into Doug's house. And so since the murders were not sitting well with Carrie and Doug, they were talking like, we're going to have to report this. And that's when Doug called his homicide detective friend and said, hey, I need to tell you something. So they went in and they sat down with him and they told him everything. Detectives convinced Doug to wear a wire and go pay Danny and Karla a visit.
That is so scary to me. Like the thought of having to do that with people that you know are crazy and would kill you.
Yeah, I bet he was sweating bullets.
I'm sure.
As a matter of fact, to hide that wire, he had to wear like a long sleeve shirt. And this is July in Texas.
Yeah.
So about what it feels like right now where we are. I mean,
very many people wearing long sleeves.
No, and Danny did question it. And Doug just said, oh, I don't have any clean laundry. Once they're talking, Karla and Danny, they're glad to talk to Doug about these murders. It did take him about 90 minutes of kind of prodding them and leading them for them to like lay it out flat. But when they started talking, they laid it out and every bit of it was on tape. And during that conversation, Doug told them, he said, well, the authorities have been talking to me and they told me that you are the prime suspects. And Karla just blew it off as she said, oh, they're just digging. They don't have anything. She had no idea she was being recorded confessing at that very moment.
These criminals, it blows my mind the confidence that they have.
Doesn't it?
Yes.
Yeah, I know. So I guess she was pretty surprised when on July 20th, she and Danny were arrested for the murders right after that visit. And then Jimmy Lee Brandt was also arrested as an accessory to the crime. And now Karla and Danny faced capital murder charges, and they were held without bond.
Good.
After being held for 10 days, on July 30th, Karla wrote Danny a letter. In this letter, she told him that she was ready to say anything to get herself out of there and come break him out. She even said, even if she has to say that he did it so that she could get out, she would then come back and get him out.
Oh my gosh.
And then she signed it, yours forever and always. How do you think he felt about that?
Yeah, seriously.
But she promised she would get him out somehow.
Oh, okay.
But then something happened to Karla that changed the game. Just a few months after that letter, in October of 83, Karla had a jailhouse conversion. What happened was, while she was in jail, this religious group came to the prison to do like this puppet show for the inmates. You know, kind of like you went to the jail not long ago. Not to do but you went there.
Yeah. To do some social work.
To do some social work. But this was like a church ministry. Everyone in her tank was going to that show, and she didn't want to be left alone in her cell, so she went too. And after the show, she stole one of the Bibles. Well, she thought she had stolen it.
Right.
The Bibles were there to be handed out free. She just didn't know that, and so she slipped one out and took it, but it was not stolen.
Okay. She probably wouldn't have taken it if she didn't know she wasn't stealing it.
Maybe not. Maybe that gave her a thrill. Oh, I'm stealing a Bible. She did relate how that night she began reading it in her cell, and although she didn't understand what she was reading, she found herself on her knees in her cell, crying out to God, asking for forgiveness.
Wow. Is this before her trial?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Her trial began in April of 1984. And as happens many times, the prosecutor decided they were going to just try her for Jerry's murder first.
Right.
And they were going to ask for the death penalty. And if that didn't stick, then of course they have the option of then trying her for Deborah Thornton's murder, which we've seen that tactic quite a bit. And I'm sure you can figure out that trial was sensational.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the details that came out during testimony was that Jerry's body had over 20 wounds from that pickaxe.
Wow.
I mean, this was a violent-filled event. The only thing that her defense could reasonably argue was temporary insanity from drug use during the crime. But the prosecutor, he denied that. He said her use of drugs did not make her temporarily insane, as the defense alleged. And he told the jury not to consider that in their deliberations. He said, in fact, if you do, it's like giving drug addicts a license to kill.
Wow. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. And knowing that she probably didn't really have a chance of being found not guilty because of that long, detailed confession. Yeah. Her defense, they just pleaded for her life. And they told the jurors, there are two Karla Faye Tuckers in this life. One was a prostitute and a drug addict who ran with bikers. She didn't have rules. She lived by their rules. I think there's a different Karla Faye Tucker today, a drug-free Karla Tucker. I'm not asking you to put Karla Faye Tucker back on the streets. I'm asking you to give her life in the penitentiary. Karla spoke in her own defense for almost 5 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
5 hours.
Quite a lot. And during that testimony, she expressed regret for killing Jerry, but she did kind of throw Danny under the bus again. She said he was the one who had delivered the fatal blows to both Jerry and Deborah. Once the 8-woman and 4-man jury was released for deliberations, it only took them 70 minutes to find Karla Faye Tucker guilty of 1 count of capital murder. But the sentencing phase was more difficult and took longer.
Sure.
But on Wednesday, April 25th, 1984, the reluctant jury sentenced Karla to death for her part in the murder. Some of the jurors were visibly shaking as the sentence was read. The prosecutor later stated that the jurors told him they had not wanted to give her the death penalty, that they had tried everything to find some mitigating evidence that would give her life instead.
Wow. There just wasn't.
There wasn't. They said that case was so bad they did what they had to do, even though they did not want to.
Wow.
Karla remained expressionless except for hanging her head when they read the sentence, and her eyes were a bit misty. But after leaving the courtroom, she wept openly. Then, in October 1984, Daniel Ryan Garrett went to trial for his part in the murder of 32-year-old Deborah Thornton. His confession, coupled with Karla's testimony against him, because she did testify in his trial, meant that he was pretty much also guaranteed a guilty verdict.
Sure.
And then
as a man, he didn't have a chance.
Exactly, yeah. Karla, now with all of a sudden a desire to tell the truth, she took the stand for 5 days. They questioned her in his.
Wow.
Although Danny had refused to testify at her trial.
Wow.
And so she gave testimony against him, and she said, people deserve to know the truth.
But I think she probably fueled that whole thing. I doubt that there ever would have been a murder had it not been for her.
His whole defense was based on that. His defense was that she had manipulated him into the violent acts, and that he was as much a victim of hers as the two dead people.
I mean, I don't know about that, but I definitely think there probably wouldn't have been a murder had it not been for her.
Yeah, because she was the driving force.
Yeah.
His attorney, when during this testimony, asked Karla, he said, hold the weapon that you used that night and demonstrate how you struck the blows. At that, she started crying, and then he backed off a bit and said, well, just describe how you struck the victims. But on November 20th, 1984, Danny Garrett was found guilty of murdering Deborah Thornton. Of course, he too was given the death penalty. Mm-hmm. But while he was waiting execution, he actually got awarded a new trial on this technicality. One of his jurors in his trial had been improperly dismissed by the prosecution, and so he was able to get a new trial.
Okay.
Well, unfortunately for Danny, he died from liver disease before that new trial ever took place.
Okay. So, well, unfortunately or fortunately.
Unfortunately for him, but probably fortunately for anybody else.
Yeah.
For his victims' families.
Yes.
On June 16th, 1992, Jimmy Lee Brandt came out and made this sensational claim about his testimony in Karla's trial. He had been told by the prosecution that he would get a single-digit number of years for his part if he gave testimony that would help convict Karla. And the jury would have considered his testimony differently if they knew that. But he lied about it on the stand and said there was no deal. And so now he came out and said, well, actually, there was an offer. Because he lied on the stand. I mean, people will lie when their own defense is on the line, when they have some skin in the game. Mm-hmm. And so he ended up getting 20 years, but only served 3 years and 4 months.
Wow.
So it sounds like maybe that deal was legit. Like he really...
Yeah. But you know what? If he didn't... Now, I know that they have the law because there was that murder and the commission of a felony. But if he didn't know there was going to be a murder, like if he was truly surprised by that, then I'm okay with him getting less time, I guess.
And he didn't participate.
No, he ran. So, I mean, I don't think that's what he wanted or, realized was going to happen.
I do think he needed more than 3 years.
Sure.
I mean, maybe not 20, but
I
don't know. He was the one that said, if I don't do something, I'm going to go crazy.
Oh, it was him that said that.
But he did wait in the car when they went in to even steal the stuff.
Okay.
And then when they were gone for a while, he went in, I guess, to see what was taking so long. And he saw what they were doing, and he ran out of there.
Well, if he was doing speed, I will just say if he was doing speed, if he said, I need to do something or I'm going to go crazy, that doesn't necessarily mean a crime.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He might have just been saying, I got to get out of here. I got to do something.
Yeah. I don't think he was part of the planning, and he obviously didn't have a part in the murders, but he was an accessory.
Yeah,
so
sure.
He definitely needed some time.
He knew they were going to go in and steal. He was the driver.
Yeah.
He knew they were probably going to beat him up.
Yeah.
So,
And after the fact, he knew what they had done.
right.
And even though Danny's brother and Karla's sister turned him in, he didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, while she was on death row, so Karla became inmate number 777. All the time while she was in prison, she claims that she was growing in her faith, maturing, and she stuck to her conversion story, and she claimed remorse and repentance. She went on to earn her GED while she was there, and she was hoping to continue her education from prison. She completed 30 hours of college credit, and she taught herself sign language, saying she wanted now to use her hands to do good. And then she went on to marry while she was incarcerated. She married Pastor Dana Brown in June 1995, whom she had met through his prison ministry.
What is with these people marrying these prisoners? So listen, my mom, she was in prison ministry. So she had several women and men friends who went in with her. So I wish I could call her right now because I would. You want to pause it?
Yeah, stop and text her. And
Pause
ask
it real
her.
quick. Okay.
Through the magic of podcasting, we were able to speak to Darlene's mother. So tell us what she shared, Darlene.
So my mother was in prison ministry for years. You know, she went in and with a group of other, you know, God-fearing, intelligent men and women. And every single one, not a few, not some, but all of the women that went in wound up having relationships with prisoners, and several of them married them.
What?
Yes. So this is like about 8 other women, and some of them through affairs, like some of them were married.
Wow.
Some of them forfeited relationships with their families and married prisoners with horrific backgrounds. And some of them, you know, just married lifers who were never going to see the light of day.
And she said these were women, intelligent women,
Yeah.
solid, who were in their 40s, 50s. Like these were not
Yes.
just flighty young people. I mean, like it's just wild.
It's the same way with women, but we went up to the jail, of course, you know, here, and one of the guards were telling us about some of the affairs that had happened. And of course, you know, they lose their jobs. And I said to her, I was like, is it mostly men or women? And she was like, oh, it's always the women. The women who have the affairs.
I guess they are so gullible and easily manipulated.
And these men are literal cons.
Yeah,
That's
incredible.
what they do. They're lifelong con artists.
I know, I was sitting here going, how did they fall for that? But
I was going to get a job, I remember one time, because we live in this small town and, you know, there weren't that many places where you could get a good paying job. But so I was going to go get me a job out of the prison. And my mom was like,
no.
you are not cut out for that, Darlene. She was like, not being mean, but you would end up accidentally smuggling drugs. They would be telling you, can you take these cookies to my grandson? I'd be like, sure.
Good call, Sherry. Good call. Wow.
So sorry.
Well, that's interesting. Pastor married the inmate who had committed this horrible crime.
Terrible crime, yeah.
During her appeals, Karla requested to have her life spared on the basis that she was under the influence of drugs when she committed the murders, and she argued that now she was a reformed person, and had she not been on drugs, she said she never would have killed 2 people. And surprisingly, or maybe not so surprisingly, she actually gained a lot of public support. It was in the months leading up to her execution that she garnered the fame she had once told her ex-husband she was destined to. World leaders spoke out on her behalf. And I'm talking the Pope.
Wow.
The Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich, at the time.
Really?
Televangelist Pat Robertson.
Interesting.
Even the brother of the murder victim, Deborah Thornton, his name was Ron Carlson. He eventually went to Karla's support side as well. He had undergone a conversion of his own, and he no longer supported the death penalty as a result of his newfound beliefs, and ended up becoming friends with Karla, his sister's murderer. He would go visit her in prison at times, and so he wanted her sentence to be commuted to life as well. And all of that does remind me of the Velma Barfield.
Yeah.
That was episode, I believe, 4 and 5 that we did. So early on.
It was.
And I will mention her again at the end of this episode.
Yeah, and it was 4 and 5 for sure.
Okay. One of her jailers made this quote. He said, "Everybody sees Jesus at the jailhouse.
Mm-hmm.
But this one is genuine and she shouldn't die." Even the warden at Huntsville, where she was imprisoned for a time, said that she was a model of good behavior, and he believed that she had been reformed after 14 years. And one of the prosecutors who had worked so hard to convict her even changed sides in support of her. A month before the execution, she actually gave an interview on Larry King Live. And that interview won him a News Emmy Award.
Wow.
In that interview, she told him she didn't believe in the death penalty, but she agreed that what she did deserve a big punishment. And she told him her testimony of how she came to Jesus. And Larry King point blank asked her what she would say to those who didn't believe her conversion is real. Because there were those who did not.
Of course.
A lot of the victim, Deborah, her husband that she was estranged from at the time, or the one that she wasn't really estranged from. She was really cheating on him with a one-night stand.
Mm-hmm.
Even, he was not convinced that this was a real conversion, along with a lot of other people. And Karla replied to Larry King. She said that she doesn't try to convince people that it's real, that they should be able to see her life and tell that she tries to live it every day. And there should be real, consistent evidence in a person's life if they're changed. And she expressed assurance that when she died, she knew she would be with Jesus. Karla was the only woman on death row in the state of Texas during this time, compared to about 180 men.
Wow.
And that actually made headlines around the world. Some claimed that Karla had such support only because she was a woman.
I believe that.
And a pretty one at that.
Right.
She was very pretty. The media was a circus. People were writing into the papers to express either their support for Karla or their support of the death penalty. Emotions rose high, and religion was used in arguments for both sides.
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, she was referred to by various names: the Sultan of serial killers, the sweet woman of God, and the feminist martyr on death row. Newspapers, radio, magazines, and TV all covered virtually every step of her journey to death row. One British female reporter wrote that the Texas Good Old Boy Network's reasons for wanting to spare Karla's life were because women in Texas were regarded as such innately inferior beings that the chauvinistic men who control the legal establishment regard it as their duty to be chivalrous even to a murderess.
Okay.
Yeah. But in Japan, the feeling was quite different. Their idea of Texas came from movies, and so they're thinking cowboys, guns, and all of that. And they believed, well, that's a double standard that exists, and that the men are treated more severely than the women. In the end, none of that mattered. Karla's execution by lethal injection was scheduled for February 3rd, 1998. In the hours before the execution, the then governor of Texas, George W. Bush, refused her 11th hour appeal to block the execution. When the scheduled day came, Karla's final meal was a banana, a peach, and a garden salad with ranch dressing. That doesn't sound like very much. If that was my last meal, I'm going to be pigging out.
Not me. I think I would be so nauseous. I don't think I could eat.
We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
I've decided I could eat because I'm an emotional eater. I would eat.
I would be so sick and nauseous. No, I would just
She might have
throw
been
it all up.
if she only had a banana and a peach and a salad. She had 4 people whom she had selected to witness her execution. Her husband, Dana Brown, her sister, Carrie Weeks, her close friend, Jackie Onken, and Ron Carlson, one of the victim's brothers.
Okay, so Carrie, is that the sister that turned her in?
Yes.
I wonder how she felt about that later. Like if she
talked about that on Larry King Live.
Okay.
He asked her about that. She wasn't mad at her sister for turning her in at all. She was surprised, but she wasn't angry with her.
Yeah.
Karla's final words were an apology. Yes, sir, I would like to say to all of you, the Thornton family and Jerry Dean's family, that I'm so sorry. I hope God will give you peace with this. She looked at her husband. Baby, I love you. She looked at Ron Carlson. Ron, give Peggy a hug for me. She looked at all present, weeping and smiling. Warden Baggett, thank all of you so much. Everybody has been so good to me. I love all of you very much. I'm going to be face to face with Jesus now. I will see you all when you get there. I'll wait for you.
Wow.
The deadly drugs were given. Karla licked her lips, looked up at the ceiling, hummed a hymn. She praised Jesus. And then 8 minutes after the injection, she was pronounced dead at 6:45 p.m. Karla Faye Tucker was the first woman put to death in Texas since the Civil War, and the second woman in the U.S. since the death penalty had been reinstated in 1976. And that first woman since it had been reinstated was Velma Barfield.
Whoa. Okay. Okay. So a couple of thoughts. First of all, the lethal injection. I get such anxiety around that because in my mind, I don't know how it really is, but I've heard that basically it paralyzes you. And so you can't move. And so in my mind, I'm imagining that also happening to your lungs, not being able to expand.
Mm.
And if that's how you die, that is so scary to me. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, that would be scary. And it said it took 8 minutes. That would be torture.
And so I don't know if you're unconscious. From what I understand, you're not unconscious. You're just, you're paralyzed.
That would be horrible.
Yes.
It looks like they could just give you morphine and put you to sleep like they do animals.
That's what I would hope, but I don't know that that's what happens.
That's bad.
Yeah.
Would you rather be electrocuted?
No.
Yeah, that would be horrible.
That's horrifying. But I think it would be quicker.
To be honest, I think the most painless way would be a guillotine.
Yeah.
Just like let the blade come down, chop the head off, you're done. You wouldn't have to worry about hanging.
But then you wonder, like, does your brain... Okay, so I've heard these crazy things. Is your brain... Like, are you conscious at all? Like, right after that happens?
Because your brain's not attached to your body, but your brain's still intact.
Yes.
I've heard just from morbid books and stuff.
Sure.
You hear these stories about like eyes blinking and stuff. I don't know if it's really true.
Yeah. I mean, I don't either, but just a thought, but I agree that would probably definitely be the least painful. So what are your thoughts about her being executed? Like, do you think...
Well,
it was just...
I do, because that was a horrible crime, and we just can't let people get away from their sentence just because they're converted.
Right.
Only God knows if that's real or not. And the state has a responsibility to issue justice here on earth. It's not about vengeance. It's about justice, and our state has that responsibility. Mercy belongs to God.
Yeah.
And that person gets their mercy when they meet him, if they're believers. I do think we'll meet Karla Faye Tucker when we get to heaven.
Yeah.
I do think she's there and we'll meet her there. I believe it was legit, but I don't believe that removes the consequences of your actions. Because if it did, then all these jailhouse conversions would be wanting to get out away from the death penalty.
Sure. It's just like if your kid, does something horrible, but they're really, really sorry for it. That doesn't mean that they still don't get punished.
Yeah.
Or they, they get out of the punishment. They still have to, face the consequences of whatever action. Yeah. And I just think as human beings, we're wired we want justice, but we're also, wired for compassion.
Yes.
And so we kind of always go back and forth between the two. And I think that's healthy to, to kind of contemplate those two things. But I definitely believe in the death penalty. And I definitely think that was a just, consequence of what she did. So
I do too.
Those were some hard times.
Yes, they were.
Now I'm going to share a little insider information with you guys as a special treat. Now, you probably don't know it, but most of the time, if I'm not on an episode, it's because my wife got really mad at me and fired me. And she's usually too embarrassed about it to tell Melody. So when Melody's episode comes around, she sends me her programming, and I go ahead and record it. Because here at Hard Times and True Crimes, we appreciate your listeners' support so much that we just keep on recording, even after we've been fired. So you make sure you tell everybody you know, even if you're really mad at them, to check us out. Till next time, unless I get fired again, goodbye.